The soil trembled, the earth groaned, and from 6 feet under the red clay of Adonko village, a hand broke through, fingers clawing toward the moon. The elders had buried him at sunset. By midnight, he stood among them again, breathing. In the village of Adonko, tucked between two rivers and surrounded by ancient Iroko trees, there lived a boy named Koffi. He was born on a night when thunder split the sky but no rain fell. The midwives whispered among themselves. His mother, Ama, held him close and wept, not from joy, but from fear. Koffi was different. He had 6 fingers on each hand. In Adonko, such a thing was not considered a blessing. It was seen as a mark, a sign, an omen of something unnatural. The village elders gathered outside Ama's hut the morning after his birth. Their faces were stern, their voices low. "This child carries a curse," said Nana Kwesi, the oldest among them. His walking stick tapped the ground 3 times. 6 fingers belong to spirits, not men. Ama begged them. She knelt in the dust, her wrapper soaked with tears. "He is just a boy, please, let him live." The elders murmured. Some looked away. Others shook their heads. But Nana Kwesi raised his hand for silence. "We will allow him to stay," he said slowly. "But he must never touch the sacred drum. He must never enter the shrine. And when he grows, he must live at the edge of the village, away from the rest of us." Ama nodded, clutching her son tighter. She would take any condition if it meant he could breathe. Koffi grew up knowing he was unwanted. The other children threw stones at him when he passed. They called him Spirit Hands and Demon Boy. Their mothers pulled them away when he came near, as though his shadow alone could bring misfortune. He did not fight back. He did not cry in front of them. But at night, alone in the small hut his mother had built at the village edge, he would stare at his hands and wonder why the gods had made him this way. His mother never made him feel ashamed. She held his hands in hers and kissed each finger. "You are not a curse, my son," she would say. "You are a mystery, and mysteries are not meant to be feared. They are meant to be understood." Koffi did not understand, but he trusted her voice. As he grew older, he became strong. He helped his mother farm. He fetched water. He carved tools from wood with such skill that even the men who hated him would secretly buy his work through middlemen. But they would never speak to him directly. He learned to live in silence. By the time Koffi turned 20, his mother had grown weak. Her cough was deep and rattling. The village healer refused to treat her. "She is the mother of the cursed one," the healer said coldly. "Let her fate be her own." Koffi watched his mother fade. He sat beside her every night, cooling her forehead with wet cloths, singing the lullabies she once sang to him. And when she finally took her last breath, he did not scream. He simply closed her eyes, whispered, "I will not forget you." He buried her himself, alone, beneath the shade of a baobab tree. After his mother's death, Koffi became even more isolated. He spoke to no one. He lived off the land, hunting small animals and growing yams in a hidden corner of the forest. He avoided the village entirely, but the village did not forget him. One dry season, a great sickness swept through Adonko. Children fell ill, crops withered, wells dried up. The people grew desperate. They gathered in the village square, their faces gaunt and afraid. Nana Kwesi stood before them, his voice shaking with age and authority. "This is a punishment," he declared. "The gods are angry, and I know why." The crowd went silent. "There is one among us who does not belong," Nana Kwesi continued. one who was marked from birth, one whose very existence offends the spirits. He pointed toward the edge of the village, towards the direction of Koffi's hut. As long as he lives, we will suffer. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Fear turned to anger. Anger turned to resolve. That night, a group of men came to Koffi's hut. They carried torches and ropes. Koffi was asleep when they broke down his door. He woke to rough hands dragging him outside, his wrists bound tightly. "What have I done?" he asked, his voice hoarse. No one answered. They dragged him to the village square. A large hole had already been dug, deep and wide, surrounded by stones. The entire village stood watching, their faces lit by firelight. Nana Kwesi stepped forward. "Koffi," he said gravely, "you have brought misfortune upon this land. The gods demand a sacrifice. You must return to the earth." Koffi's heart pounded. "I have done nothing wrong." "You were born wrong," Nana Kwesi replied coldly. The men pushed Koffi toward the hole. He struggled, but they were too many. They shoved him down into the pit. The earth was cool against his skin. He looked up at the faces staring down at him. People he had known all his life. People who had never once shown him kindness. "Please," he said quietly. "Please." But they did not listen. The first shovel of dirt hit his chest. Then another and another. Koffi closed his eyes as the soil covered his legs, his waist, his shoulders. He tried to breathe, but the weight pressed down. The last thing he saw was the moon, pale and distant, before the darkness swallowed him whole. Koffi did not die. At first, there was only silence, cold, pressure. His lungs burned. His body screamed for air. But then, something strange happened. The earth beneath him began to hum. It was a low, rhythmic sound, like the heartbeat of something ancient. Koffi felt it vibrate through his bones. The soil around him shifted, loosened, and suddenly he could breathe again. He opened his eyes. He was no longer in the pit. He was somewhere else. A vast, dark space filled with soft golden light. The ground beneath him felt alive, pulsing gently like skin. In front of him stood a figure. It was a woman, tall, dressed in robes made of woven vines and red clay. Her eyes glowed faintly, like embers. Her voice was deep and resonant, echoing from every direction. "Koffi," she said. He trembled. "Who are you?" "I am Asaseya," she replied. "The Earth Mother, the one who holds all life and receives all death." Koffi fell to his knees. "They buried me. They said I was cursed." The Earth Mother's expression did not change. "You are not cursed, child. You are chosen." "Chosen?" Koffi's voice cracked. "For what?" She knelt before him, her hands hovering over his. "Your hands are not a mark of evil. They are a mark of balance. 6 fingers to hold what others cannot. You were meant to carry burdens too heavy for ordinary men, but the people feared what they did not understand, so they tried to erase you." Koffi looked at his hands, trembling. "What do I do now?" Asaseya smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "You will return to the surface, but you will not return as the boy they buried. You will return as the man they need, and you will teach them what they have forgotten." "What have they forgotten?" "That difference is not a curse," she said softly. "It is a gift." She placed her hands over his heart. Warmth flooded through him. His body felt lighter, stronger, and then, without warning, the ground beneath him surged upward. The villagers had returned to their homes. The grave was sealed, the torches extinguished. Silence had settled over Adonko once more. But at midnight, the earth trembled. The soil over Koffi's grave began to crack. A low rumble echoed through the village. Dogs howled. Chickens squawked and scattered. People woke, confused and afraid. And then a hand broke through the surface. 6 fingers clawing toward the moon. Koffi pulled himself out of the grave, dirt falling from his shoulders. He stood, breathing heavily, his body covered in red clay but unharmed. His eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, just as the Earth Mothers had. He walked slowly toward the village. The first person to see him was a young boy fetching water. The boy screamed and dropped his calabash. The sound woke the entire village. Within minutes, people poured into the square, holding torches and weapons. Koffi stood in the center, calm and still. Nana Kwesi stumbled forward, his face pale. "Impossible," he whispered. "We buried you." Koffi's voice was steady. "You buried a boy you feared, but the earth sent back a man with a message." The crowd murmured nervously. "You believed I was cursed because I was different." Koffi continued. "You buried me because you were afraid. But fear does not protect you. It only blinds you." He raised his hands, his 6-fingered hands, and the earth beneath the village square began to shift. Grass sprouted where there had been dust. Flowers bloomed in the cracks between stones. Water began to seep up from the dry wells. The people gasped. "The Earth Mother has shown me the truth," Koffi said. "I was not born to harm you. I was born to help you. But you must learn to see beyond what frightens you." Nana Kwesi fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Forgive us," he whispered. Koffi looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I forgive you. But forgiveness does not erase what was done. It only opens the door to what can be." From that night onward, Koffi became the village's greatest healer and guide. His 6 fingers, once seen as a curse, were now understood as a blessing. He could sense illness in the soil, read the health of crops, and mend what others could not. The sickness lifted. The rains returned. The land flourished. Koffi did not take revenge. He did not gloat. He simply worked, quietly and humbly, teaching the villagers that strength lies not in sameness, but in embracing what makes each person unique. And when he finally grew old, the people of Adonko built a shrine in his honor, not to worship him, but to remember the lesson he taught them. Difference is not a curse. It is a doorway. What the world fears today, it may need tomorrow. And those who are brave enough to embrace what others reject will always rise, no matter how deep they are buried. The earth remembers, and it refuses to keep down those who were born to stand.